to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
Ebro in the Morning, Rosenberg. Laura Stiles is out on maternity leave. The baby, young baby Light, is doing phenomenal. So is mom and dad. And we have Brooklyn's, well, really Queens own, but Brooklyn Borough President. I think he's becoming a friend of the show. We've had some real talk. Give it up for Eric Adams back on the program. What's happening, sir?
Good to see you. You know, I am a son of two boroughs, Brooklyn and Queens. You know, so I love them both.
So they don't force you to pick sides, is what you're saying. Nobody don't pick a side. So just for the audience, you've been Brooklyn Borough President for how long?
This is my 7th year. I'm in the 7th year now. Next year would be my last year, and it has been an amazing ride as I continue this journey.
And prior to Brooklyn Borough President, what was your role in politics?
I was a state senator. I served in the state senate for 4 terms, 3.5 terms. I left in the last term to be Brooklyn Borough President. I was elected. First person of color to be the Borough President of Brooklyn.
Wow, really? I never knew that.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That is a major milestone. So let me ask you, we talked early in COVID, and we've talked periodically both on the air and off the air with your team. Where things are right now, COVID-19, what is the major focus for Brooklyn? What's the major headline that you want to get out to the people?
Testing. That's the key. Testing is so important. The city must play a better role. The contact tracing, the earliest we could identify when someone is infected with COVID, isolate them, not infect their homes or their family or their colleagues. It goes a long way. We have to do a better job in testing. And then when the vaccine comes out and it passes the muster of our state, we need to make sure that it is distributed in an equitable way and not the way we've done things in the past when it comes to COVID.
With the vaccine being talked about, we had a conversation with Governor Cuomo. The vaccines being talked about in the streets. Cuomo's been very deliberate in saying that this vaccine must be available for black and brown communities as they need it. They were the hardest hit communities. It should not just go through corporations, which will then only benefit people with money. Where are you at in this vaccine convo right now, and what do you want people to know about your position?
And that's so important what you stated, but you know, let's be clear, Ebros. We knew at the beginning of COVID-19 that the black and brown communities were being hit the hardest. You know, I didn't have to read about it. You know, as you know, I moved into Borough Hall, put a mattress on the floor, and went into those communities every day, knocking on NYCHA doors, just distributing food, PPEs, and other items, transit employees, DC 37 members. So yes, we looked at the high end economically of our country and city and made sure that they had the items they needed during the beginning of COVID. We can't do the same when it comes down to the vaccine. It must be distributed in those communities that are in greater needs.
Now, Cuomo spoke and acknowledged that there is and I'm glad he understands this, and I hope other people do too, the lack of trust that black folks have when it comes to vaccinations that we don't know nothing about. There's a long history there. You know, obviously, other cultures have also experienced that. I know Puerto Rican peoples have been through things as well. Obviously, black folks with Tuskegee. Gaining this trust from the community and this trust for the vaccine is a major hurdle.
It really is. And, you know, I'm glad you raised that because that's real. That's why it's imperative that the governor would put in place those who understand the science. We cannot just allow, you know, what Donald Trump is doing or has done to say something is automatic. We have smart medical professionals here in our state. Let them do an analysis so it can pass the muster, and then we should make the determination here in the state and in the city of New York. Because you're right, the history is real, and you're about to put something in your body. There needs to be a level of comfortability. And if it's the science is there, and it is, then you need to move forward to protect yourself and to protect your family. But I agree with the governor 100%.
Do you have any message specifically with regards to COVID when it comes to Thanksgiving and the holidays coming up?
Stay home, Zoom it. Listen, you know, we enjoy our families. Zoom has showed us other ways, WebEx, FaceTime. There's better ways to do it. If you are going into a household with, 20, 30 friends, you're really being irresponsible this time around. COVID is real. Let's not kid ourselves. And I speak with my medical professionals, to stay updated. They told us that we were going to have a reemergence. And what people don't realize, one of the areas you can point to where the reemergence is coming from is that we're now indoors. We're closer together. And so I'm really encouraging my friends and colleagues, this is the one you need to sit at home, be with your family members, the immediate families. You can't do the big events. You are really taking you're placing your life in your own hands if you're doing so. And I say this is the one where you have to do it remotely.
Now, you were vocal about over the summer about the NYPD removing, I believe it was the gun crimes unit. Was that what
it was the anti-crime unit? Those are the plainclothes guys.
The plainclothes. You were on the other side of activists. You were saying, listen, there's some problems here, but this was done haphazardly, and we need to make some adjustments. Talk me through, because, I understood what you were saying because it felt like a rush kind of job. But you also went on to say that you felt like the NYPD was up to some shenanigans. I'd love to hear more about that with regard to being slow to crime scenes.
That's so important, Ebro. Public safety is the prerequisite to prosperity. We have to be safe, and you can't just be philosophical in being safe, and you can't be abusive. You could have justice and safety because that is what you have in other parts of the city. And so there's two pieces to this. One, the plainclothes unit, anti-crime unit. You have those who are local in precincts and those who are citywide. We disbanded the local anti-crime units. And I said that was wrong to do because you have a better control of the local ones that are assigned to each precinct. We need to make sure that the right people were assigned there, and then they need to be gun specific. They should be targeting the overproliferation of guns in our community, particularly handguns. You saw the numbers. The numbers were horrific. During the July 4th week, we had over 100 people who were shot in the borough. All the victims were black and brown. All the shooters were black and brown. That was just unbelievable. Then the second is how we respond to the urgencies of crimes. Trust me when I tell you, you are not going to see one-year-old children being shot in economically stable communities and see a slow response from the police department. There was a lack of urgency of saying, let's shift the manpower to those communities that were in greater needs, not heavy-handed policing, but precision policing. And what does that look like? We had a substantial decrease in the number of people in Manhattan because of COVID-19. The basic buildings only had a 10% occupancy. Why didn't we shift the police who were in Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan? Why didn't we shift them to those areas where family members were dealing with these real gun and gang problems and do precision policing in the right and smart way? We didn't. There was not a level of urgency because the victims were black and brown, and I believe we moved too slow when the crisis impact black and brown communities.
Well, I in hearing you say that, it forces my brain to go, well, they did that on purpose. They did that on purpose because when they scare black and brown communities, right, black and brown communities often turn to the police for help. Instead of politicians, they turn to the police, and the police provide those communities with more heavy-handed policing. That's what they've done in the past. And when they do that, the, elderly, the congregations, they align with the police against the youth, and it separates the community. It creates a generational gap in the community that separates neighborhoods. And they've done it in the past. I believe this happens on purpose.
And what you said is so important. And that is why I say, brother, let's reimagine the ecosystem of public safety. Cats like Chief Madry. We have some great commanding officers that don't subscribe to the heavy-handed policing. Let's partner with our CMS teams, Erica Ford, A.T. Mitchell, Sean Duke, McFadden, all of these great on-the-ground team members that they know how to use police, not to be heavy-handed, but be part of the new ecosystem of public safety. And that's so important. That's why your commanding officer is crucial. And so when you bring in that new support, it is not to do heavy-handed policing. It's the term that I use over and over again, precision policing. We know who the shooters are in our community. If you partner with those crisis management teams and give them the resources, the support they need, and only bring in those police units when it is needed to deal with serious, dangerous violence, and you do it in coordination with our crisis management team, you have a different mix, brother. We don't have that policing that we witnessed in the past. We have a different type of public safety ecosystem, because it's not just about 9/11. Remember, I took a big hit because I was telling people 9/11 can't be the response for every issue in our community. We need to engage in real conversation with our young people and the residents of our community.
Well, what you're saying sounds like the term everybody's afraid of. Defund the police. There's big up in arms when you say that, because everybody thinks you mean get rid of policing. And look, activists should not be coming up with political slogans. So that's, let's do that. It's up to the politicians to come up with slogans that make sense. What you're saying is a reallocation, a reorganization. Is that what you believe? And how would that actually work if you were in charge?
Well said, brother. And that's what it is. You are dead on by saying activists should not come up with slogans, because it's reallocation. And what does that look like? Number one, Ebro, and I said this on your show, and I'm going to continue to say it until it resonates with people. We're dysfunctional in our cities across America, and we need to start functioning in a uniform manner. Cities are made up of agencies. And if those agencies are not in alignment with each other, then you're going to have a dysfunctional city. That is what we are doing with our police department. Instead of spending $6 billion on being reactive, let's become proactive. What does that look like? All you have to do is look at the end of law enforcement to see how to change law enforcement. 40% of the people, according to one Texas study, on Rikers Island are dyslexic. So if we were putting part of that reactive money into dyslexia training and giving our young people the support they need to deal with dyslexia so they don't think they can't learn and commit crimes, we'll be dealing with 40% of the prison population. 80% of the men and women on Rikers Island don't have a high school diploma or equivalency diploma. It goes back to those early days. 55% have learning disabilities. A third of the 18 to 21-year-olds read below a 5th grade reading level. So we're spending so much time responding to crime instead of preventing crime in the first place. So that reallocation should go to how do we prevent it? And one of the best places we could prevent it, Ebros? Foster children. Our foster children age out at 21. 600 to 700 a year. We know at the time that they age out, only 12% are going to graduate from high school, 3% are going to enroll in college. They're more likely to be evicted from their homes, mental health illnesses, dealing with victims of crime or participating in crime. If we just take $50 million of the police budget and put it to something called Fair Future and let them age out at 26 and have life coaches until they're 26, those same groups, 90%, according to one study, will graduate from high school. A substantial number will go to college. They will have the support that they need. That is how you reallocate the money to be more proactive and not reactive the way we are now.
But that sounds like you're actually caring about people before they become criminals.
Right.
What part of the game is that?
Yeah, getting ahead of things. Well, I thought it's all supposed to be
where they
reaction.
do that at?
And you know what? And the reason I care about people before getting there is because I was there. You know, running numbers as a child in South Jamaica, Queens, arrested at 15, beat down by police officers, angry as all hell, dealing with all the trauma that came with it. And I could have looked at that place. You know, my mom sat me down at that time and she said, let me tell you something, baby. You know, you're going to be in some dark places. Now, you make the determination if you're going to be buried or planted. And if you're planted, do something with the fruits of your harvest. And I took that moment to say, you know what, it's time to look at my life as a planting and turn it around. And that's why I went into the police department. I didn't want to be a cop. After Arthur Miller was killed by a chokehold, Reverend Daughtry and civil rights leaders said, we want you to go into the police department and fight from within. That's where we are. And because people loved me and saw the possibilities, I didn't go the wrong way. And I love these young brothers and sisters who I walk down the street, I'm not afraid of. I engage with them. I learn from them. They learn from me. We have allowed people to demonize our young people like they demonize me. And I'm not going to let that happen.
So wait, what are you doing after you finished as Brooklyn Borough President?
That's
you're not going to have a job.
That's what I was going to say.
Wait,
are you about to retire? It's about to be over, huh?
Yo, what you about to do, baby?
The game just started. And you know what? Let me tell you something, Ebros. I'm an ordinary cat, man. You know, life hasn't always been easy. You know, I remember as a young man growing up in South Jamaica, Queens, we used to bring a Glad bag full of clothing to school every day because Mom thought they were going to throw us out, the marshals, and we were going to be homeless. She wanted us to have a change of clothing so we wouldn't be embarrassed. It was tough times, you know, but she sustained us and we were able to move forward. I know what people are going through in this city. When you shake my hands, you're going to feel the calluses. My nails are not manicured. They're chipped up. I didn't go to Harvard or Yale. In fact, I went to jail. I'm a CUNY grad, 14 years, going at night, working during the day, hustling through. Ordinary guy, and I think that it's time for an ordinary person who has gone through a lot to lead this city of people who are going through a lot. And so I'm running for mayor in 2021, and that's why I'm making that announcement.
Major announcement. Yo, we got to add some bells and whistles to this announcement. We need drums and the whole thing. So it's official. Eric Adams, mayor of New York City.
And I said to you that when I make the announcement, I'm going to be on Hot 97, you know, because this is my constituency. This is my base. As I said, my son listened to this show all the time. He's a Ebro's fiend, I like to call him.
Appreciate him.
That's who I must connect with. I must connect with the future of this city and empower them the way Reverend Daughtry, Sam Penn, and others empowered me to take control of the city they like. I love this city. I know this city. Most importantly, this city knows me. It's been over 35 uninterrupted years of fighting for the city. You know what, Ebros? When you look at me and all the errors, the mistakes, you look at my armor, you see kinks on it, bent, dirt, grime. It's not pretty, it's not perfect, but every scar, every dent, every bruise that you see on my armor is because I was on the field of battle for the people of this city. And that's who I am. I'm going to be the first blue-collar mayor this city ever had because this is a city of people who are struggling every day. I know them and they know me. So that's why I'm running for the mayorship.
So Eric, what's the timeline of this election? When will people be voting? When's the primary, et cetera, et cetera?
The primary is in June. The campaign is on now. We're in full force. Many people are moving around the city, doing listening tours to try to learn the needs of people. I don't have to do listening tours. I've been with the people for over 35 plus years. I'm ready now to engage in the things that they need. The June primary is the Democratic primary, the most important aspect. Historically, you win that primary, you're going to move on to become the mayor. But after the June primary, you have the November primary. And I'm excited about this experience on where I am. And this is so important for everyday people because, as I stated, you don't get blue-collar cats that move to the seat of power in our city. And that, you know, a person who has stumbled, who has gotten up over time after time after time, is sending a message to everyone who believes because they've made mistakes, because they stumbled, because they were not perfect, that life doesn't end. It's just the beginning.
All right, so we got to dig in while I have you because you're going to be busy, and I'm sure you'll be back on.
Yes.
But now you've officially announced your run for the mayor of New York City here on our program, and we appreciate that. One of the biggest things you'll be up against, and we've talked to de Blasio for years about this, is big money. You're a blue-collar guy. So the corporate cats, the real estate cats, the Upper East Side museum owners, the people who live in the high-rises, how are you going to balance their interests and maintain your blue-collarness?
And it's not challenging to do. Think about this for a moment, Ebros. It doesn't matter if you live on Park Avenue or Park Place. You want your streets safe. You want to educate your children. You want a transportation system that can get you around the city in a healthy way. There are some common grounds that we all want. And I'm saying to my corporate execs, you've done well. Now you have to use your wealth to help those who are in need. We can't continue to have this large gap in prosperity in this city. And so, yes, you are multi-million dollars a year. We need you right now to pay an increase in taxes for a 2-year period. I want to call it a COVID surcharge to get us through this multi-billion-dollar budget. Yes, you own technology companies. I need you to come into our inner cities and build out our Wi-Fi and give the notebooks and iPads that are needed during these times. So we need everyone in this. And we've been here before. Remember in the 70s, yep. It was the affluent New Yorker who came together with the unions and the people, and we dug ourselves out of the economic strife when Ford told us to drop dead. We're back here again. We're all in this together. We need to unify our city and say we must move through this together and not separate each other.
So one of the big, divisive conversations is our public school system and how segregated it is. Yep. De Blasio has dug in and rezoned and reallocated seats, and parents threw up their hands and people were spitting and cussing. How are you going to keep this public school system moving in a way that includes people who come from challenging backgrounds?
And you know, and one day we should. I hope I could come on your show and just have a conversation about education. But let me give you the fast answer. I have been spending the last 2.5 years speaking with neurologists, pediatricians, and some great educators like Brother George Leonard, David Banks from Eagle Academy, etc. We have education so wrong, and we're so used to doing it this way that we are afraid to change it. All the neurologists are telling us that the first 1,000 days of life are the most significant days for a young person. That means the time that mother is impregnated with that child, we need to start doing the right things. That prenatal care, giving that mother a doula so she can learn nutrition. If that mother is not having the right iron, the right folic acid, that baby could be born with cognitive issues, learning disabilities. We have a disjointed educational system. And so the system is setting up a substantial number of people, predominantly Black, in general, but specifically Black and brown boys. We're setting them up for failure. And I want to change this disjointed city system. And that includes everything from, like, why, think about this, Ebro, why are we still having two months off during the summer? That was an agrarian calendar, brother. There's no reason for us still. No one is going to pick crop on a farm anymore. We need to change how we are educating in the city and make sure we give every child an opportunity. Then we have to integrate our educational system. We have to change the process of how we assign students to schools. We need to have a more equitable and fair. We cannot lump all children with learning issues or economic issues in one school. We have to open the system and have a more diverse a method of ensuring that we assign children in all schools. And lastly, listen, brother, with technology now, we could have the best educators able to teach anywhere in this city with technology. One thing COVID has presented to us is the ability to use technology to bring in some of the best teachers, some of the best methods. Let's scale up success. Let's give every child an opportunity instead of fighting over small pieces of opportunity. Our children can learn. We just have to be committed and dedicated to make it happen.
So now, sorry, Rosenberg, I just want to put a cap on that. So what you're saying is you expect people who live in New York City to care about one another, no matter how much money you make or neighborhood you live in.
Without a doubt. And we've divided the city up based on those things. Now, I represent Brooklyn. 47% of Brooklynites speak a language other than English at home. And you know what's really powerful? A reporter called me the other day. She says, Eric, listen, you raised the most money in the mayor's race. But that's not the real secret. You know, yes, you're at the $7.2 million dollar amount that it needed for the primary. You were the first person to get there. But look at the list of the 7,000 people who donated to you. She said, look at their last names. You have African-American last names, Caribbean last names, Chinese, Pakistan, Sephardic. She said, you're like a United Nations candidate because my voter, they wake up in the morning, Ebros. They pull the gate up in front of their shop. They sweep outside. They go in. They do 12, 13 hours hoping they can eke out a living for their family. And when you shake their hand and you shake my hand, you're going to feel those calluses of digging in hard to provide for your family. And they hear me. They know that I know them, but most importantly, they know me.
Eric Adams.
And Eric, last thing I want to ask you is when you first signed up for this, I mean, there have been rumors about you running for a long time. So this plan didn't come out of nowhere. But this city's in a different place than when you first had that conversation. How much do you have to think about rebuilding this city? I read the other day they think as many as 300,000 people have fled New York. So what is the plan to sort of rebuild this city economically as well?
And you know what? And that's a great question, and you're right. 300,000 left the city. And let me drop another number on you. Around 65,000 people pay over 51% of our income tax. They're 2% of the income tax filers, but they pay over 51%. And so that's why I say it's important that we don't divide our city. We tell those who are affluent enough that we need you to give more to ensure that we get past this period. So there's certain things we must do to ensure the economic viability of the city. Number one, we have to be safe. As I say over and over again, the prerequisite to prosperity is public safety. We need a police department that's responsive, that is going to give us safety with justice, and they go together. Number two, we have to expand and build out our city, growth. I want to attract in this city biotech, the technology companies. We have some of the greatest minds here in our city. We want to attract them here to ensure economic growth and stability. You saw Facebook just signed a long-term lease with the Folly in the Hudson Yard, the Folly building in Hudson Yards. That's the type of excitement we want here to be in this city. And yes, and lastly, we got to get over COVID. People must come back to their place of employment. We must do it in a safe way that we can take these buildings that are now 10% full, move them to be fully occupied, and people know that they can be there in a safe way. When our city becomes safe again from COVID, safe again from public safety, and continue the expansion of growth for everyone in this city, you're going to see tourism return, which is economic stimulus. You're going to see businesses return, and you're going to see everyday people, particularly those who are low skilled or underskilled, they're back in their place of employment, because when the corporations open up, then you'll have the local restaurants where you have the dishwashers, the cook, the busboys and girls. You'll have the cab drivers. That is why it's so important to get the city back up and running so we can get back to an economically stable place.
What is your relationship? A lot is made of the relationship of the mayor of New York City and the relationship of with the governor of the state. Today, what is the relationship like with Governor Cuomo?
I have a good relationship with the governor, and I believe there was a loss and missed opportunity. You know, brothers, think about this for a moment, man. People were taking their loved ones to the hospital, never to see them again. Some of them were put into graves outside the Bronx. That trauma was unreal. I thought the governor and the mayor missed an opportunity. During a crisis, you come with the united front. I believe they should have done press conferences together, briefings together. And if it needs for me to fall back publicly to allow a unified voice, I'm going to do that. Nothing impounds terror more than to give the belief that the people who are in place to lead you are in conflict. I think about sometimes when I used to respond to a shooting as a police officer, imagine me responding to that shooting of someone who was shot, and on the way, I'm arguing with the person that I'm responding with. No, if I have a beef with you, I'm gonna argue with you after we resolve the crisis that's in front of us. I'm not going to get into these public fights with the governor. I'm not going to get into these public fights with anyone. We're gonna have a united front to let the people of the city know that no matter what they're going through, they have real leadership. And most importantly, as I did during COVID-19, I'm gonna say it over and over again, brother, generals lead from the front. They don't send their troops into battle and ask how was the war. I led this city from the front during a very frightening time. That's the type of leadership I know. That's the only type of leadership I can give.
And lastly, the NYPD union endorsed Donald Trump. The NYPD makes their power felt by whomever the mayor is. You were once a part of that NYPD, and you often, I know you still meet with, you know, some of the black organizations and other organizations inside the NYPD. How are you going to manage these guys? Because it's my interpretation that too many of them have let their ego become overblown, and they actually think they're in charge of the city. How are we managing this?
You know, cats have known me for all this time, and people would say many things about me, but one thing they would never say, Eric Adams is not a leader. and Eric Adams is not afraid to take those controversial issues. The union heads, they know who I am. They knew, they're well aware that while I was in the police department, I was not silent. When people start to do the Google and research, they're going to find out. I didn't read about Amadou Diallo. I know his mother. I didn't read about Abner Louima. I sat in the courtroom with Johnny Cochran and others, and Ken Thompson during prosecuting the case, Zongo. I am extremely forceful in dealing with police reform. And the union heads, they know, I know, how we can turn this police department around and make sure that we could have safety and justice. And that is why it's so important, because when you look at the needs of the city, COVID, economy, public safety, and my experience in public safety is going to be extremely important as we turn this city around. We must be safe, but not in disgrace, and we could have justice and public safety at the same time.
Well, hopefully you deal with some of these white supremacists up there that thought it was a good idea to endorse Trump, because that was highly offensive.
It was, yes, it was. And you saw a group of black and brown officers came out and stated that they do not speak on behalf of them. And you have some good black and brown officers that are in these agencies that are willing to step up. We need to give them the support they need, and that's the type of leadership I'm going to bring for them. Any officer who wants to protect the city of New York, we will have their back, but they must have our back.
Eric Adams, he's running for mayor of New York City. We begin voting in June and then again in November. Good luck to you, Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams, for the time being. Let's see how this goes, man.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the program. Enjoyed the conversation. We're going to be very critical of you, so.
And I love that. I love that so much, you know. And so can you just let my son know that I'm cool now because I was on Ebro?
What's your son's name again?
Jordan Coleman.
Yo,
yeah, Jordan Coleman.
Yo, Jordan, you got to keep Pops in check over there if he starts slipping up. You know what I'm saying? Send us a kite. We'll get him on the box, too.
Take care, brother.
Thanks, Eric.
Take care, Eric.
Peace.
Peace.